Today's podcast is brought to you by the Hounds of Baskerville, the traditional barbershop and shaving parlour. Looking a bit scruffy? Got a big date? Maybe you got an important meeting? Go online and book at hounds.sg. Sort of later in the day, he goes, oh, what should I do when I'm in New York, Paul? I was like, if I were you, I would do everything that you feel comfortable with that you can't do here in Singapore. And he's like, like that. I was like, I'm not telling you to go out and do some crazy stuff, but like do some other experiences. Do stay safe. Don't do something you're not comfortable with. But like there's different things that you can do and experience and places you can go or whatever. Yeah, but he was like, it is different to the rest. To a lot of other places here. Yeah,
I mean, it's amazing how much I think, I don't know how the general public operates, but at least the friends and students and people I've met here seem to travel a lot. It seems to be quite normal here to travel. But they travel, but they don't have any street smarts. And street smarts, I think, is really lacking here. You know, I grew up on the streets, and I don't have much of an education. I mean, I graduated high school and like that, but I didn't go to proper university or anything like that. I just graduated the minimum just to get a regular GED and all that kind of stuff like that. Not GED, but actual diploma. But I grew up on the street. You learn this kind of stuff. I mean, like, I've had guns pulled on me. I mean, I've been sat down on a couch, like me and my buddy are walking, or not walking, but I'm dropping my buddy off like somewhere, and hey, come on inside for a minute. And they sit us down on the couch. I've had a guy pull a gun out and like sit there and talk to you. So hey. And I freak out, like, what the hell did I do? And it turns out my buddy talked to the wrong girl. He's like, I'm just letting you know, you shouldn't talk to my girlfriend. That was quite
So
normal.
He pulled it out. It wasn't like, I'm just going to put my phone down. It was like...
No, he's just like...
letting you know, like...
I just want to talk to you for a second. I just want to talk to you for a second. You're cool. Don't worry about it. And he's looking at me. I want to talk to your buddy here. Your buddy here, hey, just want to let you know. Don't mess with my girlfriend. You shouldn't be talking to certain girls. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of... And you're like... And I'm like, you get it? I hope you get this. You're going the fuck out of here. You know what I mean?
Point taken.
Yeah. You understand what he's saying? Can we leave now?
Yeah.
But I've been in some situations, and that was quite normal. People, guns, like maybe I hung out with some interesting people I didn't know were interesting at the time. You know what I mean? But like, it's really, it can be a dodgy world. You can really get wrapped up quick. You know what I mean? And it's like, you see it sometimes. Hollywood does a decent job conveying it in some of these movies. Like they show like this. Oh, the guy wakes up, he's got his eggs and bacon, and the wife, oh, bye, honey. And then 8 hours later, he's kind of bleeding in a ditch, and then they cut to the scene. They're like, well, how does it happen? How does he go from eggs in the morning to bloody in a ditch? You know what I mean? Like, this shit can change in a blink of an eye.
It's something you sort of discovered in shamanism, and I guess like you becoming comfortable with the balance of that side of things and Islam as well, your relationship with God, right?
Yeah. So, I think the context, and I need to give a disclaimer, is that I am not a shaman.
Oh, really?
I think just from the introduction, people are gonna assume
can we cut?
I'm a shaman.
I thought.
Can we cut and retake? So I am not a shaman.
No, but like you're interested in these practices. And, right.
I've opened myself up to the world of spirituality.
Yes.
And ancient Malay or Nusantara shamanistic practices, and the universal spiritual shamanistic practices as well. I mean, Palo Santo is not Malay, but it's something that I have.
It's sacred in a way to some people.
Yeah. So what I'm learning was what I thought was a discovery, and then now that I turn back into my timeline and I see all bodies of work of mine, I realize it was always a part of me. Because now I say, oh my god, I did that then. And then I did this piece of work then, and then it talked about this then, and like, it just feels like I've been trekking through a forest, only to finally push through a bush and say, "Hey, that's my highway." I've always I found it. Like this was all mine. That was a horrible analogy, by the way, but we're gonna go with that. And so, in 2020, when the pandemic hit and I was faced with an existential crisis, I was on a date, and this anecdote on that date is something that is so profound. I understood what happened to me in 2020. The person said, this pandemic, what it does is makes you look into a mirror. It places a mirror in front of you, and the question to ask yourself is, Why are you so uncomfortable? What about it is so painful? And then it just hit me like, oh, because my usual coping mechanisms like work and travel was stripped away from me, and I had to deal with myself. The things I hated about myself amplified its voice even more because there were no distractions from it then. And through it, I found not a segue, but through it I found spirituality in a way that was almost accidental, but if you look on hindsight now, it was as if some divine energy guided me that way. And the way I introduced myself to it was also something that, because being that, ironically, that Muslim boy who was always questioning pluralism and everything, it's so funny that we started with that, and now it shows that I was actually one of the people who was nervous. I introduced myself while holding tightly to my knowledge of Islam, to my understanding of Islam, to my intention with Islam, and to my relationship with the God of Islam. And that's why I'm comfortable. Because in Islam, they believe in this thing called qada and qadar, which means, in the shortest explanation of it, you believe in predestined outcomes. Things happen for a reason. Things have been written for you already. So I believe that anything I encounter now, whether right now in this moment is good, and then in the future I find it bad, it's been willed. God has willed for me to experience this version of spiritual Islam a specific way. I think Islam has been taught to us the way the Singapore government has been teaching creativity. It's so funny, we're tying everything together. Has been teaching creativity or just education to the young masses. There is a regiment, there is a ritual, there's a fundamental, there are the pillars of Islam, and there's nothing wrong with that. Please don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think what it doesn't emphasize enough is your own personal spiritual connection with God. I've felt more connected with the God of Islam, with my own relationship, the way I practice it now. I talk to him more than 5 times a day. I don't have to wait to be on a prayer mat to talk to him. I have such a fond relationship with my God, my maker, my universal, omnipresent God that answers to everyone's prayer, whether you're Muslim or not, in my opinion, blasphemous as it sounds. But I manage to find a sweet spot in the middle, because I say, hey, the things that people tell me I'm wrong about is everything that I am. And who created this boy is God himself. As cliche as it sounds, I don't think he makes mistakes, and I must make sense. So now, this era of my life is me making sense, not to anyone in the world, but myself.
All these players probably played, Pop Warner, probably played in college at some point. Because you don't hear of guys going like straight from high school to the NFL.
It just doesn't happen.
It just doesn't happen. Your body hasn't matured enough. You haven't learned enough. Like you hear guys like Kobe Bryant that went straight to the NBA, LeBron James that went straight to the NBA from high school. That doesn't happen with football. So
is it the contact, or you got to build the skill?
I mean, I just want you to think about how you were when you were. I mean, you get out of high school, you were what, 18 years old, 19 years old?
Yeah,
and then
17, I think.
Okay, 17. That's even better. Yeah. So you're 17, and now you're 21. I mean, 21 versus 17 going against these grown men that want to rip your head off, right?
Yeah.
So typically doesn't happen. So most of the guys, and not everybody, because there's some international players that don't go to college, but they play somewhere. I know there are some little leagues, not little leagues, but there are some leagues that are not very big in Germany that they play. There's even guys that play rugby that come play in the NFL. So
a couple of Australian people went over.
Yeah, exactly. So because they've been running with the ball, tackling, and doing all these things
without all the
padding, right? Well, we'll talk about that in a second. Oh man, but they played somewhere else for some years, and then you get to college. Now you mentioned scouting, right? So the NFL spends a ridiculous amount of money on scouting. Okay, they want to get the best people to play these roles on their team, so they pay their scouts a lot of money. Well, I shouldn't even say just one scout in particular. They have a lot of scouts that they dish out a lot of money to.
They're employees, right?
They're
employees.
Not like
freelancers.
No.
Okay.
Like these are guys that work for this team. Hey, I got to go get a time on this guy. We're going to see how strong he is. We're going to see how agile he is.
So they'll have targets. Because I watched Blindside the other day.
Oh, yeah. Great
right?
movie.
So,
yeah, I love
so
it.
like they send in, people sending in videos and cuts. So like they'll receive these tapes.
But not even that. Like, what you got to understand are these are high school kids trying to go play college football. The scouts from the NFL, they go find you. I mean, they watch game film and they say, oh, let me watch this game. Oh, I like this kid. Let me go down all the way to Las Cruces, New Mexico and meet him in person because he looks good on film, Oh, well, I'll watch a couple practices. And that's kind of how they grade you too, right? They grade your game film. I mean, they check everything. They check your Instagram. They check how many times you stay at your grandma's house a week. I mean, it's everything, right? Because they want to know that they have a good person that they could count on,
Not just good on the field, but
Exactly.
you're going to be at practice. You're going to be disciplined.
And you got to understand, man, NFL is king in the United States, right? So if you play with the NFL, everybody's like, this guy plays in the NFL. It can literally change your life, and depending on how good you get and the platform you have, it could change your children's life, right? So let's just take LeBron James, because you understand basketball and LeBron. You know who LeBron James is.
I do.
He makes a lot of money playing basketball, right? But I think he makes more money with endorsements. Right? So everybody wants to say, we got this good, clean-cut guy. He drinks Coca-Cola, right?
You're marketable, right?
You're marketable, right? So they want to know that I know that this guy's going to do well on the field, but I can also sell his jersey. Because, I mean, if like Tom Brady, he's squeaky clean, right? He's the greatest winner of all time in the NFL. But he never gets in trouble, right? But you hear about other guys who are drinking and driving. Just recently there was a kid who was drinking and driving for the Las Vegas Raiders that was speeding.
He played for the Raiders.
He's playing for. Just recently.
It wasn't like drinking and driving for them.
Right. Right. Sorry.
It's a different league.
Totally different league. But this kid. This was this year. Okay, this kid was a first round draft pick, millionaire, making a bunch of money. But he was speeding and he ran in the back of somebody and killed them.
Shit.
So now his career's over. Basically, his life is over. He's going to be in prison, which is really unfortunate because the kid could play. But the Raiders cut him the next day, right? Because that's not the image that the Raiders want to put out, right? Oh, this is what we are. Like we're driving drunk and we're killing people even though we're playing this game. So if you're marketable, again, you can make a lot more money.
So
Right.
they really go deep, check you out, and think, okay, we're going to bring him on. We're going to invest a lot in his training. How can we recoup some of that off the field as well?
Because you become an investment. I mean, so let's say you have two guys on your team, two quarterbacks, okay? Because you understand the position. One guy, you drafted him, you paid him $3 million, you put a bunch of money into his learning and this and that, and another guy came in as a free agent. Meaning he didn't get drafted. You just liked his film, and you said, "Hey, we're inviting you to camp," and he decides to sign with you and come to camp, and you give him $10,000 as a signing bonus. Who are you going to protect? Who are you going to put more time and energy into to do well? Probably the guy you gave $3 million to, right? You now are an investment. And it was crazy too because I remember I didn't get drafted. I got picked up after the draft by the Chicago Bears.
So this is after college, right?
Right, this is after college, right? So I finished my college season. I went and played in.
So what college? That was
New Mexico State University.
Okay.
Yeah.
So stay in college then, just so I understand.
Okay,
right?
got it. Yeah.
Like how serious is college? Because how many people watch those games? 100,000.
So depending on the school you go to, right? Well, where I went to school, 30,000 people will probably fill our stadium.
That's like
it's a lot of
for school people.
Right, it's a lot of people. But when you're talking about schools like Michigan, the Big House, they have 110,000 in attendance, right?
That was the one in Blindside.
Yeah,
see, I know about.
No, actually, no. The one in Blindside was not Michigan. It was Ole Miss.
Mississippi,
yeah, Ole Miss, yeah.
Yeah, Sandra Bullock really liked that school.
Still, right? Like, and we're talking about there's a bunch of stadiums like this every Saturday playing college football, so people are watching.
And 100,000 people turning up.
People sell out stadiums all the time with these big schools, right?
I hung out at Clemson and went to heaps of games. It was like 100,000 stadium.
Crazy.
And tailgating.
Oh yeah.
100,000 people. It's like a festival.
It is. Yes.
Insane.
It's a lot of fun.
It's college football, man. It's like
yeah. So, and not only this,
there must be no one like so you go down the street when the game's on. There's no one. The whole town's in the stadium.
That's depending on the town that you live in. Like if you live in a legit college town, like College Station. Okay, this is where Texas A&M plays. College Station, man, everybody's at the game.
Wow.
Like nobody's doing anything else. You know, you go to Miami, you know, and you're watching the NFL. Like, man, not a lot of people might be at a Dolphins game because there's the heat. There's partying. There's all kinds of things to do, right? But you go to a legit college town with just the college is what makes the town. Everybody is there.